Hello everyone, this is Mr. Incongruous live once again. There we are. Seems like everything is as it should be. It's a new day, a new stream, and a few new exercises to solve as well. So what we will do today is just go to the same website we went the other day, Python exercises for beginners. First result, w3resource.com, and we were working with Python Basic Part 1, 150 exercises with solution. So we already solved the first, second, third, and fourth, I think. And now, okay, write a Python program which accepts the user's first and last name and print them in reverse order with a space between them. Okay, so I'm not sure if they mean that we should, if your name is John Smith, for example, if it should print Smith John, or if it should print like nudge thism or something like that, like actually reversing the words themselves. So let's try and do it both ways, just to see what happens. Okay, accepts the user's first and last name. That's the first thing we need to do. So we already know that in order to enter our own information, we need to use the input function. So we will say first name equals input, and we can include a prompt or a question as a parameter in the for the input. What's your, no, please enter your first name. We always gotta be polite with other people, even with ourselves. And we copy that because we're lazy, and we change that to last name. Please enter your last name. And then just to check everything is going according to plan, we print first name and we print last name. Okay, first name John, last name Smith, John Smith. That's the first step. Everything is working as intended. Remember, if we try to do everything at once, we might skip over some steps, we might get some errors, we might forget something. So it's usually better to go slowly but steadily and win the race. Okay. So the easiest, the first possibility was for first name and last name just to be reversed. So Smith John, for example, in which case that would be full name equals first name, no, last name plus a space plus first name, and then we print full name. Let's see if this works. John Smith, Smith John. That's the first one. The second one would be much more complicated because it would mean that instead of John, we would get Nudge, and instead of Smith, we would get something like that. Okay. Now, how do we do that? What we can do is start going through. Actually, the easiest way, though it might not sound like that, is to turn these strings into lists, then reverse them, then turn them into strings again. How do we do that? If I am not sure, and I'm not going to lie to you, so we go to our good friend Google and ask him, Python, how to turn strings into lists. Convert string to a list. Nope, we don't want to split word for word. Convert string. Let's see if just going with the function list, g equals AAA, print list g. Okay, there we go. So it seems like we just need to use just as we use str or int to turn a variable into a string or an integer, we just use the function list to turn a string into a list of characters in this case. So what we need to do is reverse first name equals to list, which is first name, and we need to sort this. Reverse equals true. Nope, if we do this we will get a wrong result. Let's list last name. With this, at least we're going to convert our strings into lists if everything is reverse first name, if everything is going according to plan. Reverse last name. We run our program, John Smith. Okay, at least the first step is executing correctly. Now we need to work with reverse first name and reverse last name so that they actually reverse the strings as we need. So I think, let me think. Oh, just we need to print them in reverse order, and that would be a first step, and then we just add them together in reverse order, and we glue them together to get our final result. So that would be Python print list reverse order. You might be noticing that I'm doing a lot of Googling here. That is actually quite common. As I have mentioned, it's not, you don't need to have all the information inside your head. What you really need is to absorb and really apprehend the logic behind programming. And once you have that, once you know how to do things and you understand how the different code blocks go together, you can start playing with that, and it makes it a lot easier to search for the precise bits of information that you need. So, Python list reverse. The reverse method reverses the elements of the list. Okay. Nice. This is exactly what we need. So we know that list, the way of reversing is to use the name of the list dot reverse. Let's see how it goes here. Maybe we can reverse it directly, and we'll give it a try. Enter your first name John, enter your last name Smith. Uh-oh. Seems like doing that one way is not the way to go. Maybe this way it will work better. Reverse last name dot reverse. We try again. Here we go. So now we have the reverse of our string. Now we need to put everything together into the actual string that we will print. So that would be we're taking a full name, so full name, and to get this, what we will do is we will turn first name from a list to a string. We will add a space between them as was shown in the instructions, and then we will put last name and the going from a list to a string. Let's give it a try. Usually in order to turn something into a string, we just use str. So str reverse first name plus a space plus str reverse last name. This shouldn't throw an error, even if it doesn't work exactly as we expect, because strings can be added up to other strings. String, you can't add a number and a string, but you can add two strings together, or two or more strings together, I mean. And finally we print full name. We know this one was working, so this is another thing I should have mentioned in the documents for the course. When you have a line of code that you're not sure if you will need later, or that you're using just to check that things are working as expected. Like here we were using print reverse first name and reverse last name just to make sure that they were properly turned into a list. Now we don't need them, but maybe if this doesn't work, we will have to make alterations to this part of the code, and then to make sure that everything is working as intended again, we decomment them again. So that should say if you're on a tricky part and you're not sure how to proceed, commenting out some lines could be of help to check how the output of the program changes. Now we execute again, pressing F5. Please enter your first name. My first name is John. My last name is Smith. Okay, it's printing. It's not printing what we expect. There was another. Let me see. This will probably give us an error, but John Smith. Yeah. There is a join function that, if I recall correctly, should also serve. Let's just Google it directly. Python turn list to string. There we go. Join. Okay, so what we use is the list dot join and see if that works as intended. Name join, and we do the same with reverse last name. Reverse last name dot join, and now, because this is not working as we thought it would, we can print decomment, so we will see what is going on. Now we execute. Enter your first name, John, enter your last name, Smith. List object has no attribute join. Okay, so something's not working as it should here. Join all the strings, separator, the join input sec. Let's see if it's explained better in a different website. Input gig for gigs, but we need the join. Okay, here it is. Use the join method. String 1 dot join. Let me see. So it seems like you need to go first with the string dot join, and it will use that string as the connection between the different elements of the list. Let's check if that's the case. We cut and paste, and because we want them to be glued together, we just use double quotes, and we try to do the same, cut, paste, with reverse last name. And we try again. John Smith. Once again, it is correctly giving us the reverse, but it's not turning into a string as we thought. Let's see. Using the join method. Let's see if we can find an explanation for join. String join method. W3 school. Join all items in a tuple into a string using a hash character. Okay, tuples, I'm not sure how they're pronounced in English actually, are very similar to lists, but they're not exactly the same as lists. And in this case, John, Peter, Vicky. Okay, let's see if just go A and B equals dot join, and we print A and we print B. We're getting a bit desperate here. Now let's go. First name John, last name Smith. There we go. Seems like we had to assign a variable to them in order for the joining to properly stick. So now what we do is we replace here with reverse first name is equal to joining the list reverse first name just with no characters in between, and we say that reverse last name is going to be the result of putting together all the elements of the list called reverse last name without any characters in between. We print reverse first name, reverse last name, and we shouldn't need to convert reverse first name and reverse last name to string, because that's what the join method is doing. Let's check it once again. Please enter your first name, John Smith, and there we go. There's one last thing we can do to make this look a little bit more professional, and that's to make sure that the reverse name is properly capitalized. So to do that, I'm actually not sure how to do that. So we will ask Google once again. Python, capitalize first letter of every word. The first letter of each word in a string. Yeah. Stack Overflow is a very good site to go when you have questions. When you have questions that have already been answered. So because people there are very, very knowledgeable. They really know what they are doing and how to explain and everything. But people usually get very upset when others ask questions that have been asked before or that aren't properly, for their standards, explained, and they tend to be extremely aggressive. So, or at least that has been my experience the 3 or 4 times I've been desperate enough to try and ask a question there. So my advice would be to ask your questions in other communities where you know they will be well received, and as an absolute last resort, go to stackoverflow.com. Now, what we have here, the .title method of a string does this, which is exactly what we need. Let's see if it works as intended for us. Exercises, full name equals all of this. Let's see if this one works. John Smith. There we go. As you can see, now it is properly capitalized with the first letter of both John, Nodge, and Tim's being an uppercase. Whew, that was a handful. So with that out of the way, let's go back to w3resource.com and see if that was what they were expecting. Click me to see the sample solution. Python has, remember that the distinction between Python 2.x and 3.x are merely academical at this point in time, because the development of Python 2 is no longer supported. So we just go with input and the syntax of Python 3. Oh, it was just the first one. So it seems like we overcomplicated everything. And let's see if over here, yeah. It was just the last name and the first name. It wasn't like we needed to turn the names backwards as well. But it was a good exercise, and we're not here to impress anyone. We're not here to win the Python World Championship or anything of the sort. We're here to learn. Okay, and I am, as you can probably notice, I am learning quite a bit as well by doing these exercises. Now, let's go with the next one. Write a Python program which accepts a sequence of comma-separated numbers from user and generate a list and a tuple with those numbers. Okay. Sample data 35723, and if you notice, there are single quotes here. That means that those numbers are not taken as integers or proper numbers, so to speak, but rather they are taken as strings, which are sequences of characters, which should make our jobs a little bit easier. Now we go back to exercises. We get rid of all this, and we start working. The first thing we need to do is being able to enter our own list. that would be, we can't use list because that, as you can see, is a reserved word of Python, which means Python uses it for its own variables and systems and so on. So we will say number list. Number list equals input, and we will give them a prompt. Enter a series of numbers, please. And we need to turn those into, first into a list and then into a tuple. Let's go. Python turn string into list. String.split, and in this case our delimiter would be the comma. Let's see how that works. This is not a string. This is a string, this is not a list. And the first one would be number list, which would be number string dot split, and then the comma. We print number list to make sure it's working as it should. And how do we turn it into a tuple? Python convert string into tuple. Seems like we just use the word tuple on top of what we've already done. So tuple list would be tuple parenthesis, and we'll just copy this here and close and print tuple list. Let's see if we've done this correctly. Enter a series of numbers, please. 1, 2, 3. And we have a list, and we have a tuple exactly as was shown here. Let's try it again with the precise list given here. 3, 5, 7, 23. 3, 5, space 5, space 7, space 23. And it's working as intended. Okay, with that out of the way, let's see their solution and how close or far we were from it. List, it explains in a very detailed way how to go about this. And it's exactly what we did. Dot split. Okay, I think one more exercises and we can call this a day. Write a Python program to accept a file name from the user and print the extension of that. That one's tricky. abc.java. So we're still on the string, we're still using strings, but instead of a series of numbers, please, we want to enter a file name. And what we want to do with that file name is we want to find the dot and print what's beyond or after that dot. That would be our first task. So if dot, if I recall correctly, it's the index function. Go with that first. Dot equals file name string dot index, and we want to find the dot, and then we want to print from that point onwards. That means we need to slice the string that we've been given. So we need to print file name string starting from dot until the end, which is why we leave the right side of the brackets blank. Let's see how this goes. Enter a file name, please. doc.jpg, which is not exactly what they wanted. It's Java, not .java. So what we can do is what it's doing, it's taking exactly this character and going from here until the end. So we need to move what we're printing one character to the right, which means we need to add 1 to the index. So the position, instead of being the position of the variable dot, we can say dot plus 1 and try again. Enter file name, please. doc.jpeg. We get JPEG. Or we can delete this here and add it here, if I recall correctly. doc.jpg. JPEG. It's up to you, depends on your preferences. That should be it. Let's see if we are correct. If split abc.java, the extension of the file is Java. Input file name. Oh, that was, yeah, that's actually a lot better. So what happens here is, yes, what happens if I enter a file name dog.happy.jpg? If we enter that string, the end result would be happy.jpg, and we don't want that. So in their solution, which is better, I think, is to go with split, and then you enter the last, you divide it by where the dots are. It splits them by taking the dots as the separating spaces, and then you just print the last element of that list. Let's see how we can do this. So that would be file name list is equal to file name string dot split, and as we said, we want to split it on the dot, and then we print file name list, and we want the last character, which is character number, index number -1. And enter a file name, please. Dog.jpg. It prints out JPEG, and if we enter dog.happy.jpg, we still get JPEG. So now we know that this is working as intended. Yeah, now we are talking. As you can see, I am also learning a lot with these. I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend to have all the answers. All that I am doing is trying to show you how we should think, or more precisely, one way we can think about and solve these programming exercises. So I am a person who's been at this for a few years now, and I still have all the, I still stumble a lot. I still need to check Google a lot. I still sometimes get a wrong solution to relatively simple exercises. So this should work as an incentive for you. Okay, it's okay to be confounded by this. It's okay to be confused. It's okay to take a long while to solve an exercise. It's okay to ask for help. All right, so don't worry if a problem or exercise or something you're trying to do turns out to be a bit difficult. Just breathe in, breathe out, take a short walk, have a glass of water, and then go at it again. If that doesn't work, ask, and if that doesn't work, maybe try something else. Okay, the important thing is to keep trying. There's a saying I really like that it goes something like ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better. Okay, so that's one of my mantras. The other is the Jake the Dog mantra. Sucking at something is the first step to becoming sort of good at something. And with that, I take leave of you. I hope everything goes all right on your side of the world. And happy programming!